No. No, no. No, we're not doing the soft intro today. We're not easing into this. I'm angry. I'm furious. And you need to understand why. You weren't supposed to make it. That year. You know exactly which one I'm talking about. The one that tried to bury you alive. The one that came at you from every angle like it had a personal vendetta against your existence. The one where you went to sleep wondering if you'd wake up and woke up wondering why you bothered. That year was designed to end you, not hurt you, not slow you down, end you, permanently, completely, erase you from the timeline like you never existed. And I need you to hear me when I say this wasn't bad luck. This wasn't random chaos. This wasn't the universe testing you. This was a coordinated, calculated, systematic attempt to make sure you never saw the other side of it. And you survived anyway. And you absolute madman. You beautiful, stubborn, impossible creature. You looked at everything they threw at you, and you just kept breathing, kept waking up, kept putting one foot in front of the other, even when your legs were shaking, even when your mind was screaming, even when every logical reason to continue had been stripped away. Do you understand what you did? Do you have any idea what you actually accomplished? You broke their system. You shattered their predictions. You made their models useless. Every algorithm they had, every pattern they mapped, every probability they calculated, you made it all worthless in 12 months. They had to go back to the drawing board. They had to throw out everything they thought they knew about human limits. They had to start from scratch because of you, and that makes me angry. You know why? Because nobody told you. Nobody pulled you aside and said, hey, what you just survived. That wasn't normal. That wasn't standard human experience. That was an extinction-level event compressed into 1 year of your life, and you walked out of it standing. Nobody gave you a medal. Nobody acknowledged the war you fought alone in the dark. Nobody said congratulations, you just did something that rewrites what we thought was possible. They just expected you to keep going like it was nothing. Like you didn't just perform a miracle. Like you didn't just spit in the face of every force that wanted you gone. Like surviving the unsurvivable was just another Tuesday for you. And maybe it was. Maybe you've gotten so used to doing the impossible that you forgot it's supposed to be impossible. But I haven't forgotten, and I refuse to let this slide. Let me break down what actually happened that year, because you've probably minimized it. You've probably told yourself it wasn't that bad. You've probably compared your pain to others and convinced yourself you're being dramatic. That's what survivors do. That's the sick joke of being strong. You get so good at carrying weight that you forget the weight should have crushed you. That year, you lost things that can't be replaced. People, trust, pieces of yourself you'll never get back. That year, you faced betrayals that would have turned weaker souls into permanent victims. That year, your body tried to quit, your mind tried to quit, your spirit tried to quit. Everything in you was screaming, stop, surrender, let go. It's easier on the other side, but you didn't. You held on with bloody fingernails and broken teeth. They hit you with financial destruction. You adapted. They hit you with relationship warfare. You endured. They hit you with health attacks. You survived. They hit you with isolation so thick you forgot what human connection felt like. You kept going. They hit you with loss after loss after loss until you had nothing left to lose. And then you discovered something terrifying. Someone with nothing to lose can't be controlled. That's when they realized they messed up. That's when the panic started. Because all their tactics, all their strategies, all their carefully designed systems for breaking people, they only work on someone who still has something to protect. They only work on someone who still fears loss. But you'd already lost everything. You'd already been to the bottom. You'd already seen the worst they could do. And you were still standing there, breathing, waiting, almost smiling. That's not human behavior according to their models. That's not supposed to happen according to their predictions. When you take everything from someone, they're supposed to collapse. They're supposed to beg. They're supposed to become controllable, manageable, broken in ways that make them useful. But you became something else entirely. You became free. Free. In the most dangerous way possible. Free from fear, because you'd already faced the worst. Free from manipulation, because you'd already seen every trick. Free from control, because you'd already proven you could survive without anything they could offer or take away. You became untouchable, not because nothing could hurt you, but because you'd already been hurt beyond their imagination, and you were still here. And now they're scrambling. Right now, as you're hearing this, there are systems being rewritten because of what you demonstrated. There are models being adjusted. There are predictions being recalculated. Because you weren't supposed to be a variable, you were supposed to be a statistic. You were supposed to fall into their neat little categories of broken, controlled, eliminated. But you created a new category entirely. Survivor of the unsurvivable. Still functioning. Still dangerous. You want to know what really makes me furious? The fact that you probably felt weak during that year. The fact that you probably thought you were failing. The fact that you looked at yourself in the mirror and saw someone barely holding on when you should have seen a warrior performing miracles daily. You judged yourself for struggling when struggling was the victory. Every day you woke up was a win. Every breath you took was rebellion. Every moment you chose to continue was a middle finger to everything trying to stop you. And you couldn't see it because you were too busy surviving to realize you were conquering. That year taught you things they never wanted you to learn. You learned that you don't need anyone's permission to exist. You learned that rock bottom has a basement, and even that has a foundation, and you can survive all of it. You learned that the people who disappear during your darkest times are showing you who they really are. You learned that you are the only constant in your life, and that's not sad, that's power. You graduated from their system that year. You stopped playing by rules designed to keep you small. You stopped believing in limitations written by people who've never been tested like you've been tested. You stopped asking for permission to be who you are. And they felt it. They felt the shift. They felt you slip out of their grasp. That's why things started changing after that year. That's why certain doors opened. That's why certain people disappeared from your life. That's why you started noticing patterns you couldn't see before. You weren't the same person who walked into that year. You couldn't be. That person died somewhere in the middle of it all. What walked out was something upgraded, something evolved, something they don't have protocols for. You're not carrying trauma from that year. You're carrying credentials. You're carrying proof of what you're capable of. You're carrying a resume written in survival that most people couldn't even read without flinching. That year wasn't your destruction. It was your certification, your initiation, your graduation into a level of existence they can't touch. And I need you to stop apologizing for who you became. I need you to stop minimizing what you survived. I need you to stop acting like you're the same as everyone else when you've been through things that would have ended everyone else. You're not arrogant for acknowledging your strength. You're not dramatic for honoring your journey. You're not crazy for knowing you're different now. You're accurate. They're retraining their entire system because you proved their limits wrong. They're adjusting their models because you became an outlier they can't explain. They're recalculating their predictions because you showed them that some people can't be broken by conventional means. No, not some people. You. Specifically you. That year was supposed to be your grave. You turned it into your launch pad. That year was supposed to write your ending. You turned it into your origin story. That year was supposed to prove you were weak. You turned it into undeniable evidence that you're something else entirely. Something they can't predict. Something they can't control. Something they can't stop. So the next time you feel small, the next time you doubt yourself, the next time you wonder if you're strong enough for what's coming, I need you to remember that year. Not as trauma, not as pain, as proof. Documented, undeniable proof that you can survive what should have killed you and come out the other side more powerful than before. They weren't ready for you then. They're definitely not ready for you now. You weren't supposed to survive that year, but you did. And now everything has to adjust to the reality that you exist, that you're still here, that you're still fighting, that you're still becoming something they never calculated for. Let them retrain their systems. Let them rewrite their models. Let them scramble to understand what you are. You already know. You're the one who made it through, the one who refused to die, the one who took their best shot and turned it into fuel. You're the survivor they have to account for now, the variable they can't control, the anomaly that breaks their predictions. And you're just getting started. That year was your crucible. Everything after it is your reign. They tried to bury you, and you bloomed into something they have to fear now, not because you're vengeful, not because you're dangerous in the way they understand danger, because you're free, because you're aware, because you know what you're capable of now. And there's nothing more terrifying to a system designed to break people than a person who's already been broken and rebuilt themselves stronger. Welcome to the other side. They're watching. They're worried. They're retraining everything because you weren't supposed to be here. But here you are, breathing, standing, rising, and there's not a damn thing they can do about it.
You think silence is weakness, don't you? You think keeping quiet means surrender, and that saying nothing means you've lost. That's what they want you to believe. Because the moment you stay calm, the moment you stop explaining yourself, they lose control. They feed on your reactions, your anger, your pain, your need to be understood. It makes them feel powerful, important, validated. But when you go quiet, when you look them in the eye and say nothing, you take that power back. Silence isn't the absence of sound. It's the presence of control. It's you saying, I don't need to shout to be heard. It's you saying, I've already won. They don't fear your words. They fear your stillness, because silence is unpredictable. It forces them to face themselves. And trust me, most people can't handle that reflection. They'll try to provoke you, corner you, bait you. They'll throw every insult, every manipulation, every trick they know, just to make you break character, to make you scream, to make you prove them right. But when you stay still, when you just breathe, when you say nothing, you become a mirror. And in that mirror, they see everything they've been running from, their guilt, their fear, their fragility. That's what silence does. It teaches without words. It punishes without violence. It breaks them in ways they'll never admit. There's a reason silence scares people. It's because silence makes them listen, not to you, but to themselves. And what they hear inside isn't pretty. The noise they use to drown out their conscience fades, and for the first time, they feel the weight of what they did. You don't need revenge. You don't need to make them understand. You just need to step back, close the door, and let silence do its work. Because silence has patience. It doesn't strike fast. It seeps in, slowly, deeply, permanently. They'll replay every conversation in their head, every argument, every cruel word. They'll wonder what broke you, what made you stop talking, what made you stop caring. And that wondering, that not knowing, will eat at them more than anything you could ever say. Let me tell you something. Noise fades, silence lingers. Words can be dismissed, twisted, ignored. But silence? Silence echoes. It's the sound of a lesson they never wanted to learn. The one that says, you lost someone who owed you nothing. You see, most people don't want to fix things. They just want to win. They want to feel right, not be right. They'll argue, manipulate, and twist reality until it bends to their comfort. And when you refuse to play their game, when you refuse to argue, you shatter the illusion they live in. You remind them that truth doesn't need to shout. They'll call you cold. They'll call you heartless. They'll say you've changed. But what really happened is simple. You stopped bleeding for people who only brought knives. You learned that not every battle is worth your fire. Some are best fought with silence, because silence doesn't just end a war. It rewrites history. It turns the victim into the victor without ever throwing a punch. They'll tell others their version of the story, paint themselves as the hero, as the one who tried, who cared, who suffered. Let them, because deep down they know the truth. You walked away without saying a word, and that silence, that quiet departure, is what they'll remember forever. Silence is not emptiness. It's evolution. It's the moment you outgrow chaos and choose peace instead. It's the moment you stop chasing validation and start building yourself. Because when you go quiet, you start to hear the right voices, your own. You hear your intuition, your dreams, your purpose. You stop living to prove, and you start living to build. You become grounded, focused, unshakable. People will mistake that for arrogance. Let them, because the truth is, they don't understand peace. They only understand attention. And when you stop giving it to them, they'll wither. Here's the part they'll never tell you. Silence is heavy. It's not easy to carry. It demands strength most people don't have. Because silence forces you to sit with yourself. It makes you confront your own pain, your own doubts, your own flaws. Most people drown in that quiet, but the ones who endure it, they come out forged like steel. It's in silence that you learn who you really are. It's in silence that you realize you don't need them. You never did. You just needed time. Time to remember your worth. Time to remember your power. They'll wonder why you don't respond, why you don't defend yourself, why you don't fight back. And that wondering will drive them insane, because they can't fight someone who refuses to play. They can't win against someone who's already moved on. That's the thing about silence. It doesn't announce victory. It just becomes it. They'll check your social media. They'll ask about you in conversations. They'll pretend they don't care, but they'll care more than ever. Because silence leaves questions, and questions breed obsession. They'll imagine every possibility, that you hate them, that you miss them, that you're over them, and each one will cut them deeper than any insult ever could. Don't mistake silence for inaction. Silence is strategy. It's choosing your battles wisely. It's saying, I'm not wasting my energy on this. It's power disguised as peace. Because while they're busy reacting, you're rebuilding. While they're shouting your name, you're building your empire. And one day, when they see what you've become, they'll realize your silence wasn't weakness, it was preparation. The best revenge has never been words. It's always been success. It's waking up every morning unbothered, focused, thriving in a world they thought you couldn't survive. That's the lesson they never wanted to learn. One day they'll tell stories about you. They'll talk about how calm you were, how you walked away without a sound, how your silence changed everything. And in that story, you won't be the villain. You won't even be the victim. You'll be the mystery. The one who vanished, the one they still think about when the room gets quiet, the one who taught them what loss really feels like. Because silence doesn't just end relationships, it ends illusions, it ends control, it ends their comfort. It turns the tables so quietly they don't even notice until the game is over and you're already gone. Let me tell you a truth most people never understand. The ones who break you are rarely strong. They're just loud. They yell to hide their weakness. They hurt to hide their fear. And they'll spend their lives trying to convince the world they were right. But silence, your silence, is the one thing they can't argue with. It's undeniable. It's final. It's truth in its purest form. Silence isn't revenge. It's a revelation. It reveals who they are when the noise fades. It shows who's capable of growth and who's addicted to drama. And when you choose silence, you expose everything they've tried to hide. They'll realize it too late, that your distance was their lesson, that your silence was their teacher, that your peace was their punishment. They'll call it ghosting. You'll call it healing. Because silence is healing. It's the sound of closing doors, of boundaries being rebuilt, of a new life beginning. And in that silence, you'll find something priceless. Clarity. You'll see that you never needed to prove your worth. You never needed to convince anyone of your value. You just needed to remember it yourself. So let them talk. Let them assume. Let them misunderstand. You don't need to correct them. You don't need to defend your story. The truth doesn't need an audience. Your silence is your statement. Your growth is your proof. Your peace is your victory. And one day, maybe weeks, maybe years from now, they'll realize you were the storm they never saw coming. That the quiet one, the calm one, the one who simply walked away was the lesson they were never ready to learn. Because silence doesn't just end a chapter. It rewrites the book. So don't break your silence to explain your peace. Don't ruin your calm to prove your strength. You've already done both by walking away. Remember this, the loudest revenge is peace. The deepest cut is indifference. And the greatest lesson, the one they'll carry for the rest of their lives, is your silence. Your silence will become the lesson they never wanted. And it will echo long after your voice is gone. You know what's funny? It's not the little games they played, not the manipulation, the mind tricks, the fake smiles, the backhanded compliments. No, that part's expected. That's human nature at its lowest form. People trying to control what they don't understand. What's funny is how calm you were through it all. See, they thought you'd react. They thought you'd panic. They thought you'd jump through hoops, explain yourself, defend yourself, because that's what they're used to. They're used to control. They're used to pulling strings and watching people dance. But you didn't move. You didn't flinch. You didn't play the game. And that right there, that piece of yours, that's what's destroying them. They can't wrap their heads around it. They try to bait you with confusion, with silence, with guilt, with false kindness. But you stayed still. You stayed centered. And that's driving them insane. Because manipulators, liars, fake people, they feed off chaos. They live off reaction. They need to see you upset, angry, unstable, because it reminds them that they still matter. But when you stay calm, when you stay grounded, when you stay peaceful, you rob them of that power. You cut off their oxygen supply, and they start to choke. At first, they'll laugh. They'll act like they don't care. They'll say things like, "You changed," or "You're acting different." But behind those empty words, behind that forced confidence, they're trembling because your peace, it's a mirror. It shows them who they really are. See? When you stop reacting, when you stop chasing, when you stop explaining, you force them to face themselves. And trust me, they don't like what they see. You used to play along, didn't you? You used to try to understand them, to fix things, to prove your worth. You gave your energy, your time, your heart to people who only knew how to take. They called it love. They called it loyalty. But it was manipulation, dressed up pretty with nice words. And when you finally walked away, they thought they'd won. They thought you'd come crawling back, because that's what they expect everyone to do. But you didn't. You stayed still. You stayed peaceful. You let them play their games alone. Now they're sitting in the silence they created, replaying every moment, wondering why you're not reacting. They're checking their phone, waiting for your message. They're stalking your life, trying to see if you're miserable without them. But all they see is peace. All they see is glow. All they see is someone who finally stopped playing, and that's eating them alive. Your peace is their punishment. Every smile you give, every breath you take without thinking about them is another crack in their mask, because they can't stand the idea that you're free. They can't stand that their tricks don't work anymore. They can't handle that their power is gone. You see, people who play games, they rely on confusion. They thrive on reaction. They need you unstable so they can stay in control. But when you find your peace, when you choose calm over chaos, you become unpredictable. And unpredictable people are dangerous to manipulators. They can't play chess with someone who refuses to sit at the board. So let them talk. Let them twist the story. Let them pretend they don't care. Because every time they tell someone else how unbothered they are, they're just proving how bothered they really are. Your peace haunts them. It's in the quiet moments before they sleep. It's in the scroll through social media when they see your name. It's in every reminder that you're doing fine without them. You're not angry. You're not bitter. You're just done. And nothing destroys a manipulator more than your peace after their games.
See, peace isn't weakness. It's strategy. It's discipline. It's the moment you stop trying to win battles that don't deserve your energy. Because you finally understand you can't beat someone at a game you're no longer playing. You can only win by walking away. And when you did that, you broke them.
They'll never admit it, of course. They'll hide behind arrogance, behind their next distraction, their next victim. But deep down, they know the truth. They know you were different. They know you had a heart that could have loved them the right way. They know they pushed away something real for something fake. And now they're sitting in the mess they made, pretending they're fine, but feeling that emptiness creeping in. Because peace, real peace, it's contagious. And once you've found it, you can't unfeel it. You don't go back to noise once you've tasted quiet. You probably wonder sometimes, do they even feel guilty? Do they know what they did? Oh, they do. They just hide it well. They'll drown it in distractions, in fake smiles, in empty validation. But every night, when it's quiet, when the world stops spinning, that's when your peace comes back to haunt them. They remember the games, the manipulation, the lies, and they remember how calm you stayed. And that calm, it burns deeper than any revenge could. You didn't have to expose them. You didn't have to argue. You didn't have to prove who you were. You just had to stay still long enough for the truth to expose itself, because that's what peace does. It reveals everything. It shows who's real and who's playing. It separates strength from chaos, and that's why they can't stand you now, because your peace reminds them of their own lack of control. They thought the game would never end. They thought you'd always be available, always answering, always trying. But one day you just stopped. You stopped explaining. You stopped defending. You stopped caring. And that silence, that peace, became the loudest message you've ever sent. They'll call it cold. They'll call it heartless. But it's not. It's healed. It's focused. It's done. Because you finally learned the truth. Peace isn't about ignoring what happened. It's about refusing to let it control you anymore. And that's what terrifies them. They can't use guilt anymore. They can't use shame. They can't use emotional chaos to pull you back in. You're out. And they're stuck in the same toxic loop they built for themselves. Every time you smile now, every time you walk past them without a second thought, they feel it. They feel that loss. They feel that void, because your peace isn't silence anymore. It's power. It's a declaration that you've outgrown their chaos, that you've evolved past their control, that you've finally become untouchable. You see, they used to think peace was boring. They used to think calm meant weakness, but now they understand peace is power. Peace is control. Peace is the storm they can't manipulate. And while they're out there still playing their little games, you're out here building a life so stable, so centered, that their existence barely registers anymore. That's the real revenge, not the comeback, not the apology, not the validation, just peace, pure, unbothered, unstoppable peace. Let them play. Let them gossip. Let them guess. They don't realize it yet. But the game's over. Because the moment you chose peace, the moment you chose yourself, you took away everything they needed to win. They can't control what doesn't react. They can't hurt what doesn't engage. They can't destroy what doesn't play. So stay calm, stay grounded, stay silent when you need to, because your peace, that unshakable calm they never expected, isn't just healing you, it's destroying them quietly, completely, beautifully. And you don't have to do a damn thing about it. Just keep living, keep glowing, keep moving forward like they never existed. Because your peace after their games is the one thing they'll never recover from. You ever look around and realize that the people closest to you aren't really with you? That you could be sitting in a room full of friends, laughing, talking, vibing, and still feel completely alone. Yeah, that kind of loneliness hits different. Because it's not the silence that hurts, it's the noise that's fake. See, being alone doesn't break you.
But being surrounded by fake friends, that's what drains your soul drop by drop until you forget who you are. These people, they clap for you when you're up, but they flinch when you start to rise higher than them. They call you bro, sis, fam, until it's inconvenient to stand beside you. They'll eat at your table, but never bring a dish. They'll take your time, your energy, your loyalty, and give you excuses in return. And the worst part, they make you feel guilty for expecting the same energy back. You know that feeling? When you show up for everyone, but no one shows up for you? When you check on people who don't even think to ask if you're okay? When you pour out your soul and all they give you is silence? Yeah, that's not friendship, that's emotional theft. All right, let's be real for a second. Most people don't want friends, they want fans. They want people who will clap when they win, stay quiet when they lose, and never question their fake smiles. They don't want loyalty, they want convenience. They don't want real conversations. They want validation. And when you stop giving it, when you stop being available, stop answering every call, stop fixing problems you didn't create, suddenly you're the bad guy. They'll call you distant, fake, cold. But the truth? You just stopped being used. You see, fake friends love your light until it outshines them. Then suddenly they start throwing shade. They'll act like they're cheering for you while secretly praying for your downfall. They'll smile to your face, then send screenshots of your pain to the group chat. It's wild, isn't it? How people can eat with you and still be jealous of the hand that feeds them. How they'll say, "I got your back," but go silent when it's time to prove it. And still, we hold on. Because we don't want to be alone. We tell ourselves, maybe they'll change, maybe they didn't mean it, maybe I'm overreacting. But deep down, you know the truth. You're not surrounded by friends. You're surrounded by people who pretend well. And that realization, it cuts deep. Because fake friends don't just disappoint you, they teach you. They teach you what manipulation sounds like disguised as advice. They teach you what jealousy looks like wrapped in fake concern. They teach you that sometimes "I'm proud of you" really means "I hope you fail soon." And when you finally see it, when the mask slips and the truth hits, it hurts. Because now you've got memories that don't feel safe anymore. Inside jokes that sound hollow, laughs that feel staged. Moments that used to feel warm now taste like betrayal. But here's the thing, that pain, it's necessary because it shows you who's real. It teaches you to stop mistaking history for loyalty. Just because you've known someone for years doesn't mean they deserve a seat in your future. You can't build peace around people who secretly root for your chaos. So yeah, be alone. Be by yourself if you have to. It's better than being surrounded by people who want to see you doing good, but never better than them. Better than those who take your secrets as currency. Better than those who only show up when there's a spotlight, because loneliness with peace is better than popularity with poison. You want to know something real? The older you get, the quieter your circle becomes. Not because you hate people, but because you finally understand that energy is expensive. Not everyone can afford yours. Let them say you've changed. Let them call you fake. They'll never admit that what really happened is you stopped playing dumb. You stopped ignoring the red flags. You stopped shrinking so others could shine. You stopped laughing at jokes made at your expense. And that silence, that distance, that's your power now. Because fake friends feed off access. Take that away and you'll see how fast their loyalty disappears. They'll test you too. They'll pop back up with the "Hey stranger" text. They'll comment on your post like they didn't vanish when you needed them. They'll try to slide back in with nostalgia and fake apologies.
But don't open that door. You already know what's behind it. Empty promises, recycled lies, and temporary loyalty. They didn't change. They just realized they lost the best thing they'll ever have. Someone real. And you don't owe them another chance. You don't owe them closure. You owe yourself peace. Because peace hits different when you've been through fake love. When you've heard, "I got you" from people who never did. When you've cried in silence over people who joked about your pain. You start moving differently. You stop explaining yourself. You stop giving discounts on your energy. You stop letting clowns sit at the king's table. And suddenly solitude doesn't feel scary anymore. It feels sacred. Because that's where the healing starts. That's where you rebuild piece by piece without the noise. You stop trying to fit in. You stop performing. You stop needing people who only love you when you're easy to love. And you start walking in your truth, even if it means walking alone. You see, fake friends don't hate you. They hate that you can't be controlled anymore. They hate that your peace doesn't depend on their presence. They hate that you stopped responding to manipulation disguised as friendship. That's why your silence bothers them. Because silence means you figured them out. It means the mask doesn't work anymore. And once you see through the act, they lose their power. So yeah, walk alone if you have to. Walk away from tables where respect isn't served. Walk away from people who laugh when you hurt and vanish when you bleed. Walk away from friends who are only loyal when they need something. You'll miss them for a while. That's the truth. But eventually you'll realize that you never missed them. You missed who you thought they were. And that version only existed in your hope, not in reality. Once that clicks, you're free. Because real friends don't compete. They clap. They don't drain you. They fill you. They don't disappear when you struggle. They show up even when it's inconvenient. And until you find those people, be okay walking alone. Because being alone doesn't mean you're unloved. It means you finally stopped settling for half love. It means you stopped being an option in people's lives where you gave them priority. It means you finally learned the difference between being included and being valued. That's growth, that's power, that's peace. And one day when they realize what they lost, when they see you glowing in your solitude, laughing without their drama, thriving without their energy, they'll panic. They'll say you switched up. They'll say you think you're better now. But the truth is, you just got smarter. You stopped mistaking fake love for friendship. You stopped calling users family. You stopped bleeding for people who wouldn't even hand you a bandage. And that evolution, it's something fake friends can't stand because they built their comfort on your loyalty. And when that loyalty leaves, their whole act falls apart. So don't apologize for choosing yourself. Don't explain your silence. Don't feel guilty for walking alone, because peace doesn't need permission. You gave your heart to people who didn't have the hands to hold it. You gave your loyalty to people who only wanted leverage. And you paid the price. But now you're collecting the lessons. You've learned to trust actions, not words. To listen to patterns, not promises. To understand that sometimes silence speaks louder than "I love you." You've learned that the ones who gossip with you will gossip about you. That "I got your back" really means until it's inconvenient. That fake friends will love the idea of you, but never the reality of who you are. And when that realization sinks in, you don't chase anymore. You don't beg. You don't try to fix what was never real. You let go. You breathe, and you build peace so strong that fake energy can't enter anymore. Because at the end of the day, it's better, way better, to be alone in truth than surrounded by people who lie. So walk alone, walk proud, Walk in peace, because fake friends can't stand what they can't control, and nothing scares them more than seeing you finally happy without them.